Now we move to the another part of this pragmatics. Let's see Cyrill's topology or taxonomy. John R. Cyril is the next important person in the line of philosophers of language who have contributed to our understanding of speech acts. In his seminal work, Speech Acts is published in 1969. He further elaborated on Austin's ideas and added his own dimensions to it. By the time he published his next book, Expression and Meaning, in 1979, remember, Expression and Meaning, it is written by John R. Cyril. It is published in 1979. Cyril had developed an extensive model of classifying or categorizing elocutionary acts. He classifies elocutionary acts into 5 distinct categories, namely assertives, directives, commissives, expressives, and declaratives or declarations. These were originally introduced in 1976 in his paper A Classification of Elocutionary Acts. He has published his paper in 1976. Paper name is A Classification of Elocutionary Acts. It is written by John R. Cyril. Let's see. We must note here that by the time this taxonomy was published, Cyril's views had begun to differ from those of Austin, and in fact, this taxonomy is introduced to us is an alternative taxonomy or classification. Let's see. After a discussion on a taxonomy, the Austin had introduced in what follows here are look at Cyril's taxonomy briefly. Assertives. Cyril defines assertives those kinds of utterances, verbs that commit the speaker in varying degrees, something being the case to the truth of expressed propositions. When as a speaker you use verbs like boast, complain, conclude, deduce, etc. It's in structures like I complain that or I conclude that. The propositions or the idea that is expressed in the blanks above the something that the speaker asserts to be a true. Let us understand with this example. I complained that I was being denied access to the library. I complained that I was being denied access to the library. B. I concluded that the pilot had lost control of his aircraft. I concluded that the pilot had lost control of his aircraft. When the speaker uses the assertive elocutionary act with the help of the verb complain and conclude above, the speaker completely believes in the truth of what she is complaining about or concluding about. The speaker is said to be asserting, that is, propositions. I was being denied access to the library. The pilot had lost control of his aircraft are true. It does not matter if others accept the propositions to be true or not, or whether they are actually factually true or false, but what assertives to do is highlight the propositions as being believed to be a truly our speaker. Next one is directives. Cyril defines directives as those utterances which represent attempts by the speaker to get the hearer to do something. Such utterances in elocutionary acts involve or make use of verbs like ask, order, command, request, beg, plead, pray, entreat, invite, permit, advise, etc. Let us understand this with the help of some example. She requested him to fill a form. She requested him to fill a form. She asked the students to maintain decorum, that is a discipline. She advised her friends to take a local train to Santa Cruz. She advised her friends to take a local train to Santa Cruz. As these examples demonstrate, when directives are used in utterances, the speaker is making the hearer or expecting to hear to do something. In our examples above, he has to fill up a form. The student have to maintain decorum. Her friend must take a local train to the Santa Cruz. Of course, what the hearer has to do is not always to carry our polite request from the speaker. The speaker could be also issuing orders which the hearer has to carry out. These utterances are therefore directives to the hearers. The intention behind the directives is to ensure force to the hearer to do something. That is a directive. Next one is commissives. Cyril borrows this categorization of an elocutionary act from Austin. He defines commissive as those elocutionary acts whose point is to commit the speaker to some future course of action. As you can see, this is exactly opposite directives. In directives, the hearer has to do some action in future, whereas the commissive, the speaker is making a commitment or promise to do some action in future. Words like promise, commit, assure, please, vow, guarantee, etc. are used in this kind of utterance. Let us understand this better with the help of a few examples. Miriam promised to maintain the school forever. Miriam ought never to drive that fast again. Miriam guaranteed that she would solve the problem. As the examples above show us, the use of commissive utterance is a commitment from the speaker to carry out the action represented in the proposition at some future time. So, here we see Miriam, the speaker, making a commitment that in future she will maintain the school forever. She will never drive then that fast again. She will solve the problem. In fact, every time a speaker uses commissive elocutionary act, speaker is putting herself under the obligation to fulfill something by doing something action in future. Next one is expressive. An expressive elocutionary act expresses the mental or psychological state or attitude. An expressive elocutionary act expresses the mental or psychological state or attitude towards an event that is presumed to be true. Verbs that are used to be form expressive elocutionary acts like thank, congratulate, apologize, condole, deplore, welcome, etc. Let us understand this better with a few examples. I welcome that what my friends has said. I welcome what my friend has said. Next example is I apologize for my over enthusiasm earlier. I apologize for my over enthusiasm earlier. Next example is I congratulate you on your punctuality. I congratulate you on your punctuality. I congratulate you on Darwin's theory of evolution. Wherever we use expressive elocutionary act, we express the speaker's attitude towards proposition. The truth values of proposition, that whether those things that you congratulate someone for or apologize to someone for, etc., it is true or not, it is not question, it is presupposed to be true. Thus, in the above examples, that you are punctual, that I was over enthusiastic earlier, that my friend had said something is taken, is to be already, it is presupposed. The truth value of this preposition is not under discussion. What is being expressed is the speaker's attitude to this, an attitude of congratulating, welcoming, or apologizing, and like. It is important to remember that the preposition in these types of elocutionary acts have some property that is directly relatable to the speaker or the hearer. Thus, when we congratulate the hearer, it is because we think that hearer has done something worthy of our congratulations. We apologize to those we think that we have wronged in the some way. At last example shows it is indeed very odd, represented by the use of question mark. If we were to apologize, thank or congratulate or hearer, for instance, theory of relatives, Darwin's theory of evolution, relativity or Darwin's theory of evolution, what we congratulate them for or thank them for, apologize to them for having do something, etc. Declarations. Cyril defines declaration as elocutionary acts where one brings a state of affairs into existence by declaring it to exist. You can see that these are the most classic case of performative utterances. Let us look at the few examples. I resign. I declare you husband and wife. I appoint you chairperson of the board. If you look at the above examples, if you look at the above examples, when you say I resign, you bring the state of your resignations into existence. That is, you were employed and working till the moment you make these utterances, and as soon as these utterances is made, you are no more employed or working for someone. Similarly, when a priest says, I declare you husband and wife, the state of their being husband and wife comes into existence. Till that moment of utterance, these two were individuals who wanted to be married, and with this declaration, the state is brought into existence. So, also when you say, I appoint you chairperson of the board, the state of person being the chairperson comes into existence. Other verbs that are used in this kind of elocutionary act include fire, as in you are fired, christen, as I christen you, Josa, declared, as I declare war on our enemies. The state of someone having been fired or someone having been named Josa or state of war being been brought to existence happens in these examples as soon as elocutionary act is performed. We can say that declaration create the reality that they express in utterance. Till someone says, I am appointed chairperson, I am not the chairperson. As soon as the words are uttered, the reality is changed according to what the utterance declared. Of course, declaration require much more than the linguistic substances of the utterance. They very crucially rely on the extra linguistic aspect of authority. Those making the declaration must have authority to make it, without which neither is declaration of any use or any different reality created. Both the speaker and the hearer have to be in particular relationships for declaration to work for. For example, a convict will not become a guilty if I declare him or her to be guilty. I must have to socially sanction authority of being of a judge for my utterance I create to reality of the convict humanity guilty. The displeased convict of course cannot say the judge you are fired and bring the reality into existence. In fact, with the authority of judge, Cyril talks of special kind of declaration, which he calls an assertive declaration. When a judge says that I believe that the convict is innocent, there are two aspects of this elocutionary acts. As an individual saying this, the judge is involved in an assertive elocutionary act. In asserting the truth of proposition, the convict is innocent. This is like any other person using an assertive elocutionary act. As discussed earlier, a speaker using an assertive elocutionary act has no doubts about the truth value of a proposition. But we as hearers may or may not accept it true. However, when authority of the judge, who is socially empowered to make certain kinds of declaration, is added to previous statement, I believe that the convict is innocent. The judge creates the reality of the convict being innocent. That becomes the new reality. We, as hearers, have no choice but to accept this new reality. There are other finer sets of distinction between these electionary acts that we have not discussed here. To keep our discussion simple, we, however, encourage you to read original works mentioned in the section on further readings.